Scores of people fear dead after a passenger jet collided with a military helicopter while landing at Reagan Airport near Washington, D.C. In India, at least 30 people killed after a stampede at a religious festival. And locally, crowds gathering along the harbor front, waiting for the Chinese New Year fireworks display. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. In the U.S., scores of people are feared dead after an American Airlines regional passenger jet collided with an Army helicopter and crashed into the Potomac River near Ronald Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C. There were 64 people on board the passenger plane and 3 soldiers in the helicopter. So far, 19 bodies have been recovered from the river. Tracy Furness has more.
Search and rescue operations in the Potomac River were underway Wednesday night, with around 300 responders working in freezing temperatures.
Both aircraft are in the water. The focus now is rescuing people, and that's what all of our personnel are focused on.
I would just say that the boats are out doing searches. We have divers on both aircraft, and they're searching the aircraft at this point.
The Federal Aviation Administration said the mid-air crash occurred around 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. An American Airlines CRJ-701 twin-engine jet with 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board was flying from Wichita, Kansas to Ronald Reagan National Airport near Washington, D.C. It collided with a military Black Hawk helicopter on a training flight while on approach to an airport runway. The U.S. Figure Skating Association confirms several members of the skating community were on board the jetliner, with other reports saying 15 people involved in figure skating were on board. Russia's TASS news agency said 2 Russian figure skaters and coaches were on the flight. U.S. President Donald Trump said he had been fully briefed on this terrible accident and, referring to the passengers, added, "May God bless their souls." There was no immediate word on the course of the collision, but all takeoffs and landings from the airport were halted as dive teams scoured the site. Helicopters from law enforcement agencies across the region flew over the scene in methodical search for bodies. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
In India, at least 30 people were killed in a stampede on Wednesday during the world's largest religious gathering. Another 60 were injured and taken to hospital. At least 100 million pilgrims rushed to take a dip in sacred waters during the 45-day Mahakumbh festival in the northern city of Prayagraj. Wednesday was a sacred day in the 6-week Hindu festival, and the pilgrims take their ritual bath at the meeting point of the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati rivers. The stampede happened when pilgrims tried to jump over barricades set up for a procession of holy men. Distressed families lined up outside a makeshift hospital, desperate for news of missing loved ones. Millions continued to throng the 4,000-hectare pilgrimage site, which has been turned into a sprawling tent city with roads, 3,000 kitchens, and 11 hospitals. U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee to run Washington's Commerce Department, Howard Lutnick, says Canada and Mexico can avoid looming U.S. tariffs if they act swiftly to close their borders to fentanyl. He also vowed to slow China's advancement in artificial intelligence. Daniel Rowell tells us more.
Speaking at his U.S. Senate confirmation hearing, Howard Lutnick, a billionaire Wall Street CEO, said he had advised U.S. President Donald Trump to pursue across-the-board tariffs country by country. This in order to restore reciprocity to U.S. trading relationships. Lutnick said Trump's Saturday deadline for imposing 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico was meant to pressure the 2 countries to stop the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. The threatened duties are separate from the broad review of U.S. tariffs, trade deals and other trade policy ordered by Trump when he took office last week. Lutnick said the US is treated horribly by the global trading environment. He said other countries all have higher tariffs, non-tariff trade barriers and subsidies. Following the US financial market reaction to the emergence of Chinese AI startup DeepSeek's powerful low-cost generative AI model, members of the Senate Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee repeatedly asked Lutnick how he'd maintain US AI leadership. Lutnick said DeepSeek had misappropriated US technology to create a dirt-cheap AI model and vowed to impose new restrictions on Beijing's technology access. As Commerce Secretary, Lutnick, who is worth $1.5 billion according to Forbes, would run a vast government agency with 47,000 employees. The agency would be responsible for US export controls, anti-dumping and anti-subsidy duties, weather forecasting, fisheries, economic data and promotion of investment in the US. Trump has also designated Lutnick as the leader of his trade policy, with oversight of the Office of the US Trade Representative. Dan Orell, TVB News.
The Chinese New Year fireworks display will start at 8 o'clock tonight. Many people went to the harbor front earlier to get the best spots to view the pyrotechnic show. Police are expecting around 400,000 spectators on both sides of Victoria Harbor to watch the show. Our Celine Chan is in Shim Sha Tsui. So Celine, you've got one of the best seats. What's it like out there?
Thank you, Melissa. It's really packed here at Shim Sha Tsui as people gathered around the Victoria Harbour for the Lunar New Year fireworks display tonight. Well, as we can see, the viewing area is crammed with people. The 23-minute show is set to begin at 8, which is less than 20 minutes and consists a total of 9 scenes. The firework will kick off with a lucky red number 8 and gold ingots. The Hong Kong Observatory has forecast an increase in clouds tonight, but these are relatively high and are not expected to obstruct the view of the fireworks. Well, that's all the updates we have as for now. Back to you at the studio.
Lucky Celine gets to watch that. Still ahead, more hostages, including 5 Thai foreign workers, are set to be freed in the Middle East. Chek Kung Festival in Sha Tin. And a look at Chinese influence on the daily lives of Peruvians. Welcome back. One Israeli hostage was released in Gaza a few hours ago, and 2 more were set to be freed, along with 5 Thai foreign workers by Palestinian groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad. It brings to 15 the number of hostages so far released during the ceasefire deal with Israel, with 18 more to be freed over the next few weeks. Nazvi Karim with more.
Hamas fighters in a convoy of flatbed trucks in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. Separately in Jabalia, further north, crowds of Palestinians, including Hamas and Islamic Jihad fighters, gathered as the first hostage was released. This wasn't a scheduled release as part of the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. This exchange is because of this woman, 29-year-old civilian Arbel Yahoud. Israel was expecting her to be among the 4 female hostages released last week, but was not on Hamas's list. As a result, Israel blocked the return of tens of thousands of Palestinians back to their homes in the north of Gaza. Today's release was arranged as compensation brokered by US, Egypt and Qatar. The first captive to be released was 20-year-old Agam Berger, paraded onto the stage in Jabalia, carrying a certificate and goodie bag, and being asked to wave to the crowd. She was put inside a Red Cross vehicle, and the Red Cross convoy drove away. Relatives of hostages watched live pictures of the release from Tel Aviv. This as tens of thousands of Palestinians make the journey back to the north after Israel opened the crossing. Cars loaded with bulky belongings jam-packed along the road. Mutasem Jabir from Beit Hanun said he and his family slept in the car and are unlikely to sleep the next night. The suffering is difficult, he said, but it's mixed with joy and being able to return to their home in the north. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff on Wednesday. The meeting follows an invitation by U.S. President Donald Trump for Netanyahu to visit the White House next week. He will be the first foreign leader to visit in Trump's second term. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Chinese New Year is celebrated all over the world, even as far away as Peru in South America. Peruvians' daily life is also heavily influenced by Chinese culture. Jackie Lin has the story.
Strolling along the streets of Peru, you'll be greeted by chifa, chifa everywhere. Chifa means a Chinese restaurant. More than a century ago, swaths of people from Guangdong left their hometown to work in Peru. Originated from the Cantonese expression "食飯啦," chifa means time for meals, a common call to eat in Cantonese. The term was gradually adopted into the local lingo. Hong Kong native Chen Sam has moved to the Andean nation for nearly half a century and owns a chifa.
自從有咗中國餐館咧。
Chen said Peruvians started to incorporate rice into their meals, like fried rice, because of chifas, which offer more budget-friendly dining options. Chinese immigrants have settled in Peru for nearly 176 years. About 1/10 of Peru's population of 30 million people are estimated to carry Chinese ancestry. They are called Tusan, which literally means local-born. Like Ecuador, whose grandfather hails from Guangdong, the third-generation Peruvian Chinese no longer speaks Cantonese but is fond of Chinese culture.
The values of being Chinese, for example, honoring your word, to be honest, to the respect for elderly people, love to work. Yeah, so I think I have that value inside of me.
This exhibition in Peru features the exchanges of the ancient Shu and Inca civilizations. Both worship the sun and are known for their craftsmanship of ceremonial artifacts and masks in gold.
It's interesting to see how the Chinese and Inca civilizations might be apart geographically and time-wise, but display so many similarities.
Miss Tucson 2024 hopes to leverage her influence to foster cultural exchanges between China and the Andean nation.
A lot of Peruvians want to learn Chinese, so maybe they have to give us more opportunities, because there are a few institutes that teach Chinese here in Peru, and they tend to be a little bit pricey.
She's now teaching Chinese on social media platforms to help Peruvians learn about Chinese culture. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Hung Yi Cook Chairman Kenneth Lau said the government should be pragmatic with economic matters in the coming year. This came as the annual fortune drawing for Hong Kong took place at the Che Kung Temple on the second day of the Lunar New Year. Mimo Singhai reports.
On Thursday morning, Hung Yi Cook Chairman Kenneth Lau arrived at the Che Kung Temple in Sha Tin for fortune drawing. Lau at first said the fortune stick he drew for the city was number 20, which was neutral. However, Lau later said it was in fact another neutral stick, number 24. The prophecy of the stick says, live a life without wrongdoing. Greed can lead to trouble. With the help of respectable people, do not waste effort. This is the 8th year which Lau drew a neutral stick for Hong Kong. Lau said neutral is also good. He mentioned the upcoming budget and said the government needs to be pragmatic on economic matters. In the afternoon, the temple was packed with worshippers. Many came with their families. Some came because of the belief in Fan Tai Shui, when one zodiac sign clashes with the Tai Shui deity of the year and will bring bad luck.
This year we feel it's not comfortable because we Fan Tai Shui, so this year come here, but not every year.
While visiting the temple over the Lunar New Year is a ritual for worshippers, the tradition also attracts foreigners.
Amazing. Overwhelming in a very good way. There's so many people just doing the things that they love. It feels like very much a family gathering thing. And it's just nice to see all of the different traditions that are happening. And that's why we went to the temple today.
Every time I come, it's much more calm and quiet. But this is crazy to see this atmosphere.
The temple was built about 300 years ago as a dedication to Che Gong, a military commander in the Southern Song dynasty who helped bring an end to riots in the 13th century.
Worshippers have a wheel of fortune at the Che Gong Temple. It is believed that turning the family wheels can bring luck to the person. Memo Snai, TVB News.
The government's 2025-26 budget is set to be released at the end of February. Amid calls for reviews of the $2 public transport concessionary fare scheme, a think tank says the policy shouldn't be axed before analyzing the relevant data. Jackie Lin reports.
Introduced more than a decade ago, the $2 concessionary fare scheme initially benefited just senior citizens aged 65 or above and eligible persons with disabilities. They pay $2 for rides on the MTR, buses, minibuses and ferries, while the government reimburses the public transport operators the rest of the actual applicable fare. In 2022, the scheme was expanded to cover passengers aged 60 or above. With the expansion of eligibility, the number of $2 rides taken more than doubled. Journeys taken by those aged between 60 and 64 jumped from about 480,000 to over 900,000. Expenses almost tripled to nearly $4 billion and is expected to surge to about $6 billion this year, accounting for 1% of the government's recurrent expenditure. With an aging population, the government estimates that by 2046, at least 1 in 3 local residents will be elderly people. With the latest government budget soon to be unveiled amid a deficit in the billions, some wonder if the $2 concessionary fare scheme can be changed to cut expenditure. The government has reiterated it has no intention of axing the scheme or changing the criteria of eligibility. Still, some suggest resetting the concessionary fare at $3 to $4, imposing an upper limit for the benefit or tightening restrictions for the 60 to 64-year-old age group. This woman said it's reasonable to raise the concessionary fare given there have been fare hikes by various public transport operators. This man said the government faces more financial strain, so it makes sense that the elderly pay slightly more now. To combat the abuse, starting in August, all elderly passengers are required to use their Joyu card with real name registration to enjoy the concessionary fare. The public transport think tank said data should be collected from the use of Joyu cards for around half a year to tap the travel habits of the elderly and review the scheme, instead of scrapping the scheme rashly because of budget woes. The previous government budget has remarked that the expenditures spent on the concessionary fare scheme have grown fast, underscoring the need for reviews. Originally scheduled to be completed within last year, the review has yet to be ironed out to this date. Jackie in TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great evening. Bye for now.